O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us. O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy, Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers, and the milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent, and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. Okay, we're going to continue, and we'll pick up Swami Shivananda's commentary for a while here this morning. Okay, where are you? There you are. Good morning, dear. Everything is gone. Why not be loving even to the glasses? Huh?
Adorable.
Yes. Everyone is dear. This has come quite naturally. Hello, dear. My personal name for God inside is Dear Lord. Good morning, dear Lord. Good morning, dear Lord. Okay. So we continue here. Talking about coming into the body and out of the body. Is where we were yesterday. When the Lord, as the individual soul, and the parentheticals added by Swami Shivananda to help us to remember what this individual soul is, obtains a body, and when he leaves it, he takes these and goes with them as the wind takes the scents from their seeds, flowers, etc. And this is speaking of the mind, the mental function. Takes these, so takes the astral body.
Jiva.
So Jiva is referring to soul.
Oh.
Soul. So this portion of the, as if portion of the Lord. And it takes the, brings into the body the mental functions and the prana, the life force, and carries them back out of the physical body. So we're talking about the astral body.
Okay.
Astral body. Astral body, prana, mind, manas, and intellect. Vinyamaya kosha, those are the koshas. Very good. Okay. So 9. Presiding over the ear, the eye, touch, taste, and smell, as well as the mind, it, capital I, Lord, enjoys the objects of the senses. And the commentary here from Swamiji. He says, here's a description of how the subtle body, sometimes called subtle body, sometimes astral body, and sukshma shuriya, and different Sanskrit names as well. But in the tradition, it's always, this term astral body is referring to a cloak, something you're wearing, which consists of the life force, the prana, the mind, meaning the memories, samskaras, and the tendencies, the habits, as well as the intellect, the function of conscious mind. So these 3 sheaths, as they're called, sheaths, like sheath over a knife, constitute the astral body. So and just from a practical standpoint to see if we see it, how many of us know someone who has had near-death experience? So half, like that. Oh. Have you ever read any of the books about?
Not really.
No? Okay, it's fine. So then you can relate to dream. You can relate to dream, which is really the same. When you leave the body, as it were, this physical body, and enter dream state. Yes? Can you remember a time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you notice that there's an aspect of mind? So when you're in the waking state, the maintenance of the body is the primary mental function.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very gross, like food. How much time a day on food? Right. Thank you for laughing. Yeah, it's a joke. And then all the stuff about he said, she said, and defending your life and all of that during the day, and then your duties and all of that, which are generally physical and focused on. So if you notice in the dream, that maintenance stuff is not there, right? Mm-hmm. It's more a situation of enjoying this experience or that experience, or not enjoying. Mm-hmm. But some experience is being undertaken, and then some relationship with the experience, right? So same too is shared when leaving the body, when what we call death. And this is described consistently in the near-death experiences. If you know someone, then you have your confirmation of it, or you read any of the books, you'll see it, is the person leaves the body. It's really the soul leaving the body, and it's really the Lord. So leaving the body, but still wrapped, and still identifying with the wrapping. And in this case, the wrapping or the clothing being worn is the mental function. So memories and such are there. In other words, rising to the top of the operating room and looking down, aware, looking at the body, that's me, and it's very confusing for a moment. It's me, but it's not me. So there's a memory of this body as being me. You see? Some scars are still there. And a memory remembering the family members, too, will be there. So seeing the people around the operating room, outside waiting room, etc., which is a common scenario for someone who dies on an operating table or leaves the body on an operating table, yeah? And so you see Mary, Bill, Joe, sister, brother, all of that, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So memories are there, yeah? Manas, it's the mental function. And intellect is there, the capacity to consider what this is. And to reflect on, I died, but I'm not dead. Yes? So that's the conscious mind. Conscious mind function is there. What's missing is all of the maintenance, the body stuff. The pain, gone. The pain, as it were, remained with the physical body. Just like dream. Yes? You might experience pain in a dream, but it's not the pain that you went to sleep with. Yes? Does that relate? Okay. So, and then the life force. Of course life force still. Because the life force is the motive force, right? Thoughts rely upon the life force. If no life force, no thought. No pressure, nothing moving them. No prana. And no prana, no thought. Does that make sense? And then movement. So is prana required to move your foot? And do you motivate in the dream? Do you move around some in the dream?
Yes.
Yeah. So prana, subtle. Prana is subtle. Yes. But prana is still there. So those three are still there. So here, and who is it that's leaving the body? Well, that's a point of confusion, but it's the Lord who's inhabited the body as the individual soul. But if you find the individual soul, you have found the Lord. When you let go of the cloth that you're wearing, Be still and know that I am God. When you let go of the cloth that you're wearing, when you set it down, then you're the meditator all of a sudden. And you're experiencing meditation. Correct, Ari?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So, and is there something higher than that? Not that you found. That is the supreme state that was shared a couple of days ago in Katha Upanishad as well. Okay. So just to help to see this, what's being shared, coming into the body and then leaving the body goes with them, as the wind takes the scents from their seats, the seat of the scents, like the flowers, the cooking, pilaf, the whatever. Just as the wind carries the scents, the astral, the soul carries these on its continuing journey. So presiding over the ear, the eye, the touch, the taste, and the smell, as well as the mind, it enjoys the objects of the senses. Again, speaking of the Lord, absolute, the highest. Or you can say soul, individual soul. But the reason for establishing this concept of an eternal portion of myself is the soul. So the individual soul is nothing but the absolute. Mm-hmm. In the same way that an eternal portion of space is nothing but space. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's profound. It's being shared, but it's also accessible.
Through the intellect.
Yes. And so presiding over, and if you relate to the discussion we're just having, presiding over the ear. Yes? Mm-hmm. Look at the process of hearing. And then who enjoys the sound? So the senses are involved in delivering the sound to you, correct?
The seer of the ears.
There's a sound.
The seer of the eyes.
The senses are involved in transmitting the sound. And the mind is interpreting the sound. Right? It's the mind that says, that idiot Swami is pinging his cup with his fingernail. So the mind is interpreting it. Mm-hmm. For who? Who's it for?
The Supreme.
Who are they delivering it to?
Supreme. To the Lord.
No, the intellect's involved in interpreting it. The meditator. Yeah. Who's the intellect working for? Hari. Which one? The dream intellect or the waking state intellect? Who's it working for? Who's it delivering its knowledge to? The same one. So presiding over the ear, the eye, touch, taste, and smell, as well as the mind, as well as the mental function, it enjoys the objects of the senses. It's the same thing. We said that desire and aversion are the same. Normally we'll just hear desire, but aversion is identical. Enjoy, not enjoy, identical. It doesn't mean enjoy in the way we would think it does, that, yeah, it's a happy experience, it's a wonderful experience. It also enjoys the experiences that are interpreted, only interpreted, for God's sakes, as terrible. Who do we have to thank for the terrible experience? David? Same mind, isn't it? The clothing, interpreting the experience. But then it's being delivered to
The one.
the one. And who is that? Of which I am a part. Not a part as in away from. Swami Shivananda says, the I, capital I. See, it's neither he nor she. So when we deal with the scriptures, it's interesting. So sometimes called he, but sometimes called she, and sometimes called it, but always with a capital when it's translated back to English. To try to differentiate from the real, between the real and the ephemeral, the changing, the not independently real. So soul or God, capital I, also often capital I, or self, capital S. None of the terms actually will do it justice. The best one is silence, but it's tough for the intellect to interpret silence. It fills it with something. Yeah? So we give it words to chew on. But the words are never enough. So it has to contemplate. The mind, the intellect has to contemplate to try to approach it, to find the way back home. So it sits on the marvelous car of its mind, passes through the gateway of the ear in the twinkling of an eye, and enjoys various kinds of music of this world. It holds the reins on the nerves of sensation, enters the domain of touch through the portal of the skin, and enjoys the diverse kinds of soft objects. It roams about in the hills of beautiful forms and enjoys them through the windows of his eyes. It enters the cave of taste by the avenue of the tongue and enjoys dainties, palatable dishes, and refreshing beverages. It enters the forest of sense through the door of the nose and enjoys them to the heart's content. It makes its abode in the ears, the eyes, the skin, the tongue, and the nose, as also in the mind, and enjoys the objects of the senses. It gains experiences of the outer world through the mind, intellect, subconscious, mind, egoism, the 10 senses, and the 5 vital airs. So it creates this entire appearance, and then it enjoys it. Huh? But, number 10, the deluded do not see him who departs, who stays, and who enjoys, but they who possess the eye of knowledge behold him. So, called the mystical third eye. But the eye of knowledge is nothing other than the intellectual realization which is then lived. And the living of it, the recognizing it, and then the living of it, putting it into practice, opens the grace of it. And gives what we call freedom. But in delusion, taking myself to be this, and taking the happiness that I'm seeking, the fulfillment that I'm seeking, to be in the objects as some sort of independent truth, then we suffer. Right? With everything, idea of death, some future death, I'm going to die, it's going to be an end to life, or this will happen and I will lose my chance at happiness, or
Does it come down to purging the like-dislike aspect of the mind?
So
because everything is kind of based on that, whether I
remember,
like it or not, is what starts trouble.
Raja Yoga beautifully defines what is yoga. It is practice and relinquishment.
Yes.
So practice and relinquishment. So you have to let go of the unreal. You have to learn what is real and what is unreal.
Right.
You have to let go of the unreal, and that supports the process, and grasp the real. So that's it. So everything we engage in, practice or relinquishment on spiritual path. Oh, so that's it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. We call the practices purification. Because why? Because we're inviting sattva into the mind. Clarity. Clarity. 3 states of mind. Dullness, where we can't even think. Tossing, where we get thrown about. Sense objects. Problems, meditation on problems, which would be a common theme for us. This is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. That's rajas. Or I have to do, rajas. Clarity. When the mind is clear,
Yes.
and we're able to reflect and consider and really see deeply in things and recognize higher truths. But of course, in tamas, we forget all about the higher truths, the mind does. And in rajas, the mind is tossing about and doesn't have time for the higher truths.
Yes.
So what we call purification is cultivation of this clarity of mind. And everything, chanting of mantra, the focus on the asanas in the asana practice, the meditation practice, to withdraw ourselves from this mind, really. All of the practices are related to purification. But then relinquishment, you can say relinquishment of raga dvesha. You could say like that. So when anger arises, and this is a practice for our dear Nathan, and everybody who's dealing with this mind. So something's arising, and you've seen it before. And now with more clarity, you're able to recognize it earlier on.
Oh.
Right?
Definitely.
You know how it goes.
Yeah.
But in the heat of it, you forget. Right? Otherness creeps in. In a sattvic state, we can be here and present and recognize, yes, of course, soul, of course. And of course that's the reality. Yeah. That's sattvic state. But then somebody says, boo. And there's a whole cycle that begins. Right? And the self-defense mechanisms, they assert themselves in the mind, and they're working to capture your attention as soul. In the same way that the beautiful smell of the flowers is enjoyed by the soul, so too the idea of retribution is enjoyed by the soul. So too the idea of this terrible person in front of me is enjoyed by the soul.
Yes.
Right? And so now with more clarity, we're able to catch it earlier on.
Yeah.
Nathan, you understand what we're talking about. And you see it, right? You see it. You see a pattern emerge, and when it gets too far, it's too far, and then screaming is required. But if you can catch it earlier and come back to the breath or chant the mantra, right? Then you have a fighting chance of letting it pass.
Sometimes it is fighting.
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
Yeah, sometimes it is. But then in time, more clarity, more tools. And you'll recognize at some point, oh my God, I survived it. It didn't happen this time. Right? It didn't happen this time. Something we could say, bless you, is I was able to recognize God all the way through it. I didn't lose myself this time. Yeah? The same old thing, they did this, and then you recognize that was a test. You were testing me.
It's hard to understanding that the fighting is not fighting, and that the word fighting is even bad, and the thought of that is bad.
Yeah, but it is a fight. It's a fight for your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fight for your sanity. It's a fight for your peace. So it's not a fight in the traditional sense connotation we would have about picking up a stone or a stick or a gun or something and fighting someone to win a piece of land or like that. It's not like that, but in a way it is.
Because part of it's like succumbing.
Yeah.
Like accepting.
Accepting. And it's a fight to accept, you see. Inside. What you refused to accept before, now you recognize you have to accept it. Right? You have to fight, as it were, to gain that. To gain that. It's hard to stay aware and in the pristine place. Right? It's hard to stay awake when it seems like the world is competing to take you back to the dullness or to take you back to the place of being tossed about. And so you really have to assert. And then, of course, in the process of victory, and there is a victory looks like peace, being able to live at peace regardless of what's happening. That you see, this has all been a learning process. It's all been all the things that I didn't like that were contributing to it, because there's a process of learning and adapting and succeeding. And for one, you say you just keep trying, but the process includes setting your intention, resetting your intention, talking to yourself, taking inspiration, reminding yourself that it can be done, schooling yourself on the tools. So
it's like the only form of tattoo I've ever considered.
yes, is
it's just reminders.
Yeah, and that's where you make that's where you make the mind, which has been behaving as if an enemy. That's when you make it a friend, because now it of its own starts to, and this is as more sattva comes, starts to grasp the tools. It remembers breathe, because you've worked it out, and you've instilled a new habit.
It's weird being that breathing, being probably the only thing we really have or that we're attached to, and our only tool is the one thing that we're naturally drawn completely against. It goes away when we're in the heat of the moment. As far as physical exertion and using the body, it doesn't come natural and it doesn't feel nice to do. That's the next shloka. So we come there in the morning, but you're right. Although, in another way of saying, we could say it's natural to breathe and natural to remember to breathe. It's because the buildup of these knots that are needing to be untied. But also we can say, in everyone's defense, ours, everyone's, the senses and the mind were intentionally turned outwards. So we say the difficulty or the issue is trying to get what we are, who we are, from outside, which we can't do. But also there's a reason, God knows, why these were turned outside. And so the yogi's needing to turn them back in. And that's the battle. I remember back at my first real job.
We need to close. I'm sorry, I made a promise to Krishna Das. No, I'd like for you to share, so please forget. We're even going to have to do the short prayers in Arati in order to do so. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukneva Bandhanam Mritor Mokshayamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukneva Bandhanam Mritor Mokshayamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamhe Surandin Pushtivardhanam Mordai Vandana Vishor Mukshayamamritat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Om Bolo Sakri Shivananda Maharaj Ki, and for all the saints and sages of all the traditions. Okay, let's rise for our tea.